In the season finale of Mobile Suit Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans, it's monster versus monster, friend versus friend, and political ideals are being drawn in the sand, inked with blood. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of Season 1 of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. And you know what? It was a pretty damned awesome and explosive finale. Ein versus Mikazuki, McGillis Farid versus Gaelio, and Kudelia Ina Bernstein finally gets to plead her case to the people on Earth and the organization known as Gallarhorn. This week's episode was a great conclusion to the first major arc of Iron Blooded Orphans, which was a culmination of all of its amazing characters. And surprisingly enough, 3 of the major character deaths from last week's episode have officially been erased. That's right, guys. Shino, Ozzy, and Laughter will live. Honestly, I don't think it cheapens last week's episode at all. The impact is still there, and frankly, I'm glad to see these characters back. So aside from all of the amazing mobile suit action from this week's episode, there were also some pretty big revelations and some big things going on in the backstory, which is basically going to be the platform for the next season of Iron Blooded Orphans. First off, we have Kudelia Ina Bernstein, who has finally made it to this election with Mr. Makanai, and this is basically her platform to speak to everyone and plead the case for everything that's been going on in Mars and all of the colonies, and it ends up being so effective that Makanai is re-elected, which is definitely going to be really bad for Henry Flores and Lord Isnario. Basically, it completely destroys their plan, and it also destroys Henry Flores' hair. She has a wig. And safe to say, she completely wigs out. And then we finally have the plans of McGillis Farid, the masked villain of Iron Blooded Orphans. And you know what? His plan is actually pretty simple. I thought it was going to be a little more complex. He's trying to basically take control of Gallarhorn from the inside so that he can sort of run it himself and take control of the entire organization. However, in order to do that, it's going to have to result in the deaths of some of his loved ones and some of his friends. Case in point, Gaelio, his best friend, he is going to have to kill him. And they end up having this mobile suit battle between the brand new mobile suit that is being used by McGillis Farid. I'm afraid I just do not remember the name of it. All I know is it just completely demolishes the Gundam Camaras in this episode. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that Gaelio himself just cannot concentrate because of everything that's just been laid out before him, realizing that he's been played this entire time, and basically this is the final twist of the knife. And this ends up just driving him mad, especially when McGillis says that he's going to take care of his sister Almeria, which is basically the straw that breaks the camel's back. And he ends up just going into berserker mode, which ends up biting him in the ass because McGillis just finishes him off in like one simple attack right to the cockpit. It's pretty damned insane. Although there is the possibility he might still be alive, and he might even try to turn him into some sort of weird Frankenstein-esque monster, just like Ein in his mobile suit. What I will say is the battle between Gaelio and McGillis Farid is a long time coming. It's incredibly intense, and it has some amazing moments from the mobile suit battle. I especially love how McGillis Farid is picking up his weapons, using them against him, just completely destroying his shield with his massive lance, and then using his dual blade swords to take him out. It's a damned good battle with some amazing choreography, and it only gets better from there when we get to Mikazuki versus Ein. Gundam Barbatos fighting against the Grey's Ein is without a doubt the action highlight of this week's episode. I loved this battle. It was so gritty, so insane, lots of brand new attacks, and was just amplified from the build-up from it, because the first half of the battle was all of the Grey's Ein just completely demolishing the Gundam Barbatos, with all of its crazy attacks at speed, and the fact that Ein himself is directly connected to this mobile suit. Basically, he is the mobile suit. And I love that he actually has drill punches, too. In last week's episode, he had these drills on his feet, which he could use to go directly for the cockpit. In this week's episode, he reveals he also has some punches, which just looks so freaking awesome. And like I said, first half of the battle, Gundam Barbatos is just getting completely destroyed. That is until Mikazuki finally starts to directly connecting with the Alaya Vijnana system, which causes his brain to start bubbling, all of this blood to start coming out of his nose and eyes. It looks completely disturbing, but that's when he finally becomes one with the Gundam and starts to fight back. After all of the armor in his body finally gets destroyed, he manages to finish off the Grey's Ein in one hit with his massive katana-looking mobile suit sword right to the cockpit. Very similar to McGillis Farid. There might be a parallel between these two characters. The scene is also really cool because Orga is actually involved as well. He goes out in one of the mobile workers and gives this big epic speech to all of the different members of Tekkadan, which actually results in Gallarhorn actually deciding to have a ceasefire, and that's because Mr. Machina and their team won as well. Basically, Tekkadan just came in there and completely dominated, which is freaking awesome. They won by force, and they officially have won their very first mission, which is a really great conclusion to this arc, because technically, they could just leave Kudelia Ina Bernstein at this point, but I have a feeling they're probably going to stay around and work with her. Honestly, I don't even really think they know what they're going to do for the second season quite yet. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we're going to have to build up with McGillis Farid. The fact that he's going to be taking over, and the fact that he knows all of his stepfather's secrets, and he's sort of stepping in and sort of taking control of everything. He's also going to have to try and go back to his other Montag personality to try and make sure that he is still active. So I can't wait to see more from him. He's definitely developing into one hell of a creepy villain who, as he said, literally has, like, no feelings, no personality. He actually has no emotions whatsoever, which is why he was able to kill Gaelio and Karta, despite the fact that Karta was completely in love with him and Gaelio was his best friend. He had to kill both of them in order to further his plans, and that's definitely the grounds for one hell of a psychotic villain. So, the whole masks thing is finally starting to make a little bit of sense. So, what's the rundown on the final episode of the first season of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans? This was a great finale, filled to the brim with lots of action, great moments, and I especially loved how in the final battle you had Kudelia's speech, which was intercut with the other battles that were going on, and it just really amplified the entire story at that point. It actually made you appreciate how much they've built up these characters so much, because this could have been another typical Gundam series where basically a young kid gets a super powerful robot, they go off on this long mission, and every single episode they fight with some dudes, those dudes get a few people who get killed, they run away, and they repeat the process for like half the series until they finally start to reveal what's really going on in the backstory. Every single episode of Iron Blooded Orphans expanded on every single character from the series, and there wasn't that much focus on the main characters like Mikazuki and Orga. They're definitely going to save a lot of that for the second season. What they did do is they did a great job of expanding the entire background cast. You end up caring about all of them and getting invested in their stories and where they're going and how they're going to grow. Not only that, but the political story, while not the most exciting thing in the world, is actually pretty interesting, and I really can't wait to see how all that's going to play out in the second season. Not to mention, McGillis Farid has really grown on me as a villain, especially after the conclusion of this episode right here. Just so dastardly and evil. And Mikazuki this week, I mean, come on. That was awesome. When he finally connected, and he's like, I am finally one with the Gundam. I know exactly how to control this now. Everybody just had to get so pumped up at this moment. And I think my favorite thing about this episode, which is something that the Gundam series does really good, are really epic artwork shots of mobile suits just standing. Doing nothing, just standing, looking cool. Close-ups of the face, standing with the sun behind them, holding them in their hands. It always looks awesome. And that's just one of the reasons why this was an amazing episode and a great conclusion to the first season of Iron Blooded Orphans. It is definitely going to return for a second season, and you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm definitely going to watch that and review for you guys. For the entire first season of Iron Blooded Orphans, I think I have to give it a 4 out of 5. It's similar enough to old Gundams, but it's also doing something different enough to make it really unique. And not with its mobile suits, but with its stories and its characters. And I think that's a really big thing for Gundam. I really appreciated the story, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go in the second season. As for the final episode right here, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. It was freaking awesome. It was satisfying as hell. It had a lot of cool moments. Lots of great imagery. Everything just worked perfectly in this episode. Everything got wrapped up in a nice package, and it ended the way it should have. And there's still a lot of room for what they can do in the second season. So, fantastic episode of Iron Blooded Orphans. Check it out, Gundam fans. If you've been following the series, you must check this one out. Great episode right here. So, if any of you guys watched this week's episode, please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Were you satisfied by the finale of the first season? What did you think of the action scenes? What do you want to see from the second season of the show? Are there any other story arcs you'd like them to pick up on? Whether it be something like a mobile suit battle, McGillis Farid's true motives, or maybe even the love triangle that's going on between Atra Mikazuki and Kudelia Ina Bernstein, which seemed all the more harem-like in this week's episode. And make sure to tell me what you thought about the entire season in general and what you hope to see from the future. Please tell me in the comment section below. You guys are awesome! Thank you for watching this review. Make sure to like the video, make sure to share it with your friends, and if you would like to, please subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, and if you want to see any of my previous reviews of the first season of Iron Blooded Orphans, there will be a playlist for that on the channel, so make sure to check that out. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, all that stuff in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.